Hi everyone, Sean here from Lines in Wax. Today I want to talk about something that I've been meaning to talk about for a long time, and that is readdressing the Tony Martin era of Black Sabbath. Now this is something I've been meaning to do for a while, as I've said, but I've recently picked this up, and when this box set was announced, I thought, well, it's probably the best time to kill two birds with one stone, and I'll talk about Tony Martin's Black Sabbath and also unbox this absolute monster of a box set, which will come out at the end of May this year in 2024. So I don't usually splurge on huge vinyl box sets, but this was an exception, because I'll tell you for why. I've recently, I'll say recently, probably in the last 18 months, I've really fallen in love with the Tony Martin era Black Sabbath. Now, I recently, in the last few years, did a Black Sabbath ranking video for the Lines in Wax channel. I was perhaps a little harsh on the Tony Martin stuff in that video, because realistically now, if I listen to Black Sabbath, then I've either listened to the Ian Gillan era, or I'm listening to Tony Martin Black Sabbath. I very rarely, if at all, listen to Ozzy Osbourne or Dio Black Sabbath, unless they're like bootlegs or something I haven't heard, and so on and so forth. So today I'm going to go through all the Tony Martin albums and talk about them a bit and readdress them, because I think I was a little bit too harsh originally when I first discussed them. Now, this is the first time I've recorded using my iPhone camera live like this, so there's probably going to be all sorts of production fuck-ups. I usually like to edit videos considerably, so I'm just going off the cuff here, so excuse any faux pas that happen. So, honourable mention, before we get to this thing, excuse my creased Morrowind long sleeve, we'll start with this bad boy. Now, I don't know if this is a bootleg or if it is just a really shit version of it. As you can see, my glasses reflecting in this, but you can see this is super dark. It's really, really dark, as you can see here. Now, this album is an interesting one. It's the first Tony Martin Sabbath album, The Eternal Idol, right? Really cool art, interesting story here. This is not a statue, these are real people. They were covered in paint. It all went a bit awry. The paint, I think, was it toxic or something? Yeah, it didn't end well. They were okay. But yeah, this album was originally recorded or intended with Ray Gillan on vocals. Ray Gillan left the band, or was asked to leave, I'm not really sure. There's a whole thing around Ray Gillan, which I won't go into, but he was replaced by Tony Martin, because originally when Glenn Hughes went AWOL from Black Sabbath during the Seventh Star era, you had the choice. I think Tony only had the choice between Ray Gillan and Tony Martin, and he went with Ray Gillan. But in the end, Tony Martin ended up being the man for the job, and he came in and re-recorded all the vocals on this. Now, as we know, and if you listen to any interviews with Tony Martin, I'm not saying he doesn't class this as one of his albums, but because he wasn't really working with his own songs, these songs were all done with Ray Gillan, and the vocal lines were later removed and redone with Tony Martin. Now, the Ray Gillan version, I don't have I keep hitting the camera, sorry. I don't have the version that has the Ray Gillan tracks on it. So I either will get that separately, or get like one of the cool bootlegs that used to exist of the Ray Gillan session before it was reissued as a deluxe version. So you can get this with both the Tony Martin and the Ray Gillan version on it. So yeah, this is a strange one. This is kind of like a transition album, even though it's got Tony Martin on vocals. It probably isn't really his true first album. He's kind of more like a session singer on this. But yeah, obviously still the vocalist of Black Sabbath at this point. Others have noted as well that this obviously isn't included here. And I don't think it's for the reasons that I've just said. I think it's purely down to being a label issue. Like, this is a Warner Brothers, this is a Warner Brothers release. That was, Warner Brothers did all the Sabbath stuff, right? All the way through the initial run with Ozzy. And they also did the, what's the word I'm looking for? Dio stuff as well. So this was just happened to be, I think, the last album they did with Warner, and that's the only reason it's not included in this box set, is because it's already been reissued by Warner. These albums in here were all IRS albums, and that's the reason why these are all grouped together. There was, of course, a bit of a strange situation where, again, I don't understand how this is. I always assumed the Tony Martin stuff wasn't available because it was all IRS. You've got Headless Cross, Tier, then you had a break in the middle. I keep hitting the fucking camera. You had a break in the middle where they released Dehumanizer. Then you had with Dio, and then you had Cross Purposes and Forbidden. Now this, even though it's on IRS, is on streaming services. It's not too hard to pick up. I don't think it's been you know, had any deluxe remaster recently. Maybe it has, maybe I'm talking out my arse there, but this is on streaming services. So I've never understood why this IRS album, this IRS released Sabbath album, was available, yet all of these are not. I don't understand that. Maybe there's more to it. Maybe there's more politics, because like I said, this has Dio, these have Tony Martin. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Sabbath is a enormous machine, which is you know, I don't know. You look at the interviews from, you know, Tony Martin, or some of the videos on YouTube, all the behind the scenes stuff, or even Tony Iommi's book. There's so much shit going down behind the scenes. So fuck knows why this came out and that these have never been reissued. But this is easily available on streaming. These are all available on streaming now, but they weren't before the Anno Domini release. Now, let's get stuck in then. So we've covered briefly the Eternal Idol, but I want to get stuck into this. This is a fantastic set. I don't tend to buy box sets, like I said, but this is incredible. I could not pass this up because, well, realistically, I want to get all the Tony Martin stuff on vinyl, and that's going to cost me an arm and a leg. So when I saw them all reissued in one package like this, I gotta put this up a sec. I couldn't resist this, really. It was too easy to buy this. This is huge. I haven't read this yet. I'm afraid to get my dirty hands all over it, but it's a huge 40-page book on all sorts of stuff. I don't know if it centers entirely on Headless Cross, but it seems to. I haven't really... Oh, no, it doesn't. It goes through them all. That's amazing. Fantastic. I haven't read this. It's like a giant glossy, like, see, look at that marks. Bastards. But yeah, this just looks fantastic, and I can't wait to read that. I just haven't a chance yet. And this here, sorry to go off on a tangent before we get to the next album, but this is like a zine. Yeah, again, another zine in and of itself. This is the a replica of the tour program for the Headless Cross tour from 1989, and again, it is just absolutely fabulous to have. There's little interviews, I guess, with each member of the band. I'm loving that. That looks like I used to have a house that had a breakfast bar countertop that looked like that. I'm guessing the idea is it looks like granite tombstones, right? But Tony Martin there looks like he's in the hotel dining room. Poor bugger. I was supposed to fucking read that. Always stitching Tony Martin up, bless them. But yeah, this is incredible. I've given this a cursory glance, but I really want to give that another look over. Fantastic. This is a giant Headless Cross poster, which I won't be opening because I'll never fold the fucking thing back up. And of course, the first album of the set then is the one, the only, the Headless Cross. Let's put that down right there. This is fucking fantastic. Look at that. So Headless Cross is probably my favourite, Tony Martin era album. It's also the one which in my original Sabbath ranking I still put considerably higher than the others. There's some honourable mentions here. Look how much I fucking love this thing. The CD, the cassette, and the vinyl. Admittedly, when I bought this from someone on Discogs, it came in this little bag and I haven't opened it. It just looks so tidy like this that I really don't want to open it and like, you know, ruin it really. I've got a couple of tape players. I got a Walkman and a like a standalone Sony deck thing, and I'm still afraid that it'll get chewed up. I had a copy of Live Evil on cassette, and I put that in my cassette player, and it fucking snapped. So, I mean, you know, I know the perils of playing tapes. I played my fair share of them back in my younger days, but I'm still afraid to fucking put this in the player. But yeah, this is Black Sabbath, Headless Cross, Stunning, really, this album. It kind of reminds me of like that Candlemass kind of doom metal stuff, with a little like tinge of the AOR kind of stadium rock with big choruses and stuff. Again, I've not played this vinyl either. It's only just arrived, really, and I'm afraid to get it dirty. To be honest with you, I've only recently started getting back into vinyl. I kind of tapped out of the vinyl world 2013, 2014. I started traveling around. I traveled to like Asia and stuff, and I kind of just had a bit of a midlife crisis in my 20s in regards to why have I got all this shit that costs so much money on my shelves. I sold so much vinyl and my deck. I don't actually have a tidy deck. I have one of those like fucking Crosley briefcase players, which I use to play like crappy little like punk and hardcore grindcore 7 inches, which, you know, I don't mind playing, but I wouldn't ever fucking play this on that. So I want to get a new record deck before I go playing these. So for now they're going to go unplayed, but yeah, I'm so happy to have all 3 of these formats. Now this album, again, this has been remastered. You can hear it clear as day. I was on the on Spotify, but the original is just as good. Imho. So yeah, Edward Kloss, Black Sabbath, stunning. Like one of the best Black Sabbath albums from any era. I don't know what to say about this because I've already sung the fucking praises to this. You know, Lawrence Cottle on bass on this, one of the session guys. Really great, kind of like smooth. Guy's a cool cucumber bass player underneath this like icy cold like metal. You know, with like this really dense reverb heavy production. So it's a strange mix, but you know, it works. I would rather if Neil Murray had done bass on this, but you know, it is what it is. Nothing wrong with Lawrence Cottle at all. His shit was great. So, like, without singing that praise too much to Headless Cross, let's move on to some of the others here. To the lesser renowned. I gave this a very terrible score when I first did the Sabbath ranking. But now I kind of see Tear as I haven't got the cassette for Tear, unfortunately. I'm looking for it, but I haven't got it. I kind of see Tear as Headless Cross Part 2. It's not as good as Headless Cross. I'm not really... I got a lot of pagan and Viking themed black metal, but when it comes to... This is dangerously close to power metal, and that that doesn't inspire me too much. It looks really cool, though. I really like this art. It's one of my favourite Sabbath covers. I'm always a bit confused as to what was going on down the bottom. I thought it was a forest, but now I've got the vinyl, I can see that it's like dragons and armies and all sorts of mad shit. So that's really cool. Flipping this over, look, really interesting back. Look at this. Genuinely looks like I'm looking at like a Ukrainian black metal record rather than fucking Black Sabbath. But yeah, the only thing now that I still feel a bit weird about when it comes to Tear, now this been remastered, it sounds fantastic. Again, nothing wrong with the original mix. Original master. To be honest with you, not gonna like lose my shit over, you know, the original versus the remaster. The remaster is definitely a little bit louder, but it's not over compressed loudness war like boom, you know, oh, let's remaster this thing for streaming and make it as loud as obnoxious as possible. That hasn't happened. The remaster and the original are both still, you know, viable listens. They're both really great. The only thing I don't like is Feels Good to Me, and I like the track. I like the song a lot, but it doesn't really fit on the album. It doesn't fit at all. And that kind of ruins the flow. But it's the only thing I have a problem with now in regards to Tear. It's really come up a lot in my you know, my ranking, as it were. So I'm not going to redo my Sabbath video, fuck that. But yeah, it's really cool. It's really nice. And I've really come to appreciate this particular lineup. You know, this is, for me, probably my favourite lineup of Sabbath now. Iommi, Powell, Martin, Neil Murray, and of course Nichols. So yeah, this has probably risen the most in my opinion. Look, I've even got matching fucking tattoos. Look at that. There. Right. So what's next then? Of course, we all know what's fucking next. It's cross purposes. Well, we all know, of course, this thing came next with Dio. Now, this I would love to hear with Martin on it. Martin, in interviews, he says things that makes me think there's got to be tracks of this that exist. These tracks with fucking Tony Martin on vocals. Now that I would pay to see. He says that, pay to hear rather. He says they can't release anything new under the Sabbath name, which, yeah, that's very true. I don't know if that's Sharon Osbourne's doing or what fuck knows, but they can't release anything new under the Sabbath name anymore, which is a pain in the ass, to be honest with you. But, yeah, I've got a suspicion that they're out there. Tracks of Dehumanizer era with Tony Martin on vocals. Maybe they'll end up on a nice bootleg somewhere and then we could all hear them. Anyway, quickly, after Dehumanizer came Cross Purposes. Now, this has always been my least favourite of the Sabbath albums with Tony Martin. I've always found it to be quite boring. And I don't know why, because, you know, I first listened to this thing on YouTube during the lockdown. When was that? 4 years ago? Blimey. I bought the CD when I decided I'm going to collect all the Sabbath stuff. I listened to the CD, you know, quite a lot in the car. And I just couldn't gel with me. You know, even with Geezer Butler back on bass for this, because Geezer came back to the band for Dehumanizer and he stayed here. They got Bobby Rondinelli on drums. This doesn't have Cozy Powell, but that's fine. Bobby Rondinelli is another fucking brilliant drummer, to be fair. But this seemed to lack a focus, because I think Headless Cross and Tia, to me, seem to have a theme. And even Dehumanizer has a theme. But this, I'm not saying albums need to have a theme, but this one just seemed rudderless to me. Anyway, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking, because this is fucking brilliant. I listened to, again, it wasn't the vinyl. I listened to the digital version because, as I said, I haven't got a player that I trust putting this on. And this was fucking great. I was like, what fucking rock have I been living under? What the fuck was I listening to? Where the fuck was my head when this was playing? Because this album is brilliant. I still prefer the others. It's still my least favourite of the Tony Martin era. But it's fucking brilliant, man. I don't know if I need to go back to this, because I don't know if the remaster makes that much difference. Listen to the remaster. I feel like Geezer Butler's bass is just pulling through. Like it's what's charging the songs, you know. Obviously Iommi's been there forever, but this sounds like Sabbath. And I think having the original string section of Butler and Iommi back together, working together, and the slightly heavier tunes that were on this, probably bleeding over into this, makes this an entirely different beast from what we had here. This is a much different beast. It's kind of got a more modern sound. And that is juxtaposed, with like the bluesy, heavy, like doomy Sabbath riffs that we got in the 70s. And this is like a perfect blend of both of those things. So fear not the shit cover art. Don't listen to me on my previous video, because I'm absolutely talking bollocks. This is a fantastic album. The art is a bit rubbish, but it's great. I honestly don't know where the fuck my head was, you know, telling people that this is rubbish, because it isn't. It's fucking awesome. So again, looking for the cassette of this to finish the set. You know, really, I'm going for vinyl, CD, and cassette of every Sabbath album. That's the plan. So yeah. That was my biggest, well, it wasn't my biggest surprise for this box set. Everyone knows what the biggest surprise in this box set is going to be. We're going to talk about it in a second. But my second biggest surprise was how much I really enjoyed Cross Purposes. So, then, we all know what's coming next. We all know what's coming next. This absolute fucking monstrosity of an album. I have always quite liked Forbidden. It has the same allure to me as Seven Star did, is in that it's so universally reviled that I kind of just vouch for it because it's the underdog. I like to like try and analyze what everyone considers a band's worst album. I do it with Morbid Angel's Illid Dom Insanus or whatever, and I can't think of some other. I'm trying to think of some others off the top of my head. Bands that do absolutely atrocious albums the fan base hates. I try to focus on a bit more because I'm trying to like think, like, what were they thinking? In this case, in Forbidden's case, it was clearly a rush job because Tony Iommi was probably thinking, well, the Aussie reunion's coming up. and they had one more record to release with IRS, I think, and this ended up coming out. And I've got a few versions of this. I don't have a cassette because finding a cassette of this is near impossible without spending a fortune. So I've got some interesting things to show you here. I've got this. This is the original, apparently a promo copy. This cost me about 20 odd quid. And this is upside down for some fucking reason, but it is. Yeah, this sounds okay. Obviously, it's the original mix, which is very muddy, very heavy. But I did like the original mix. I originally preferred it to cross purposes because I'm insane in the membrane. I also picked this up on eBay. There was a seller on eBay who was selling the Tony Martin era stuff really cheap. Now, if you put these side by side, it's very difficult maybe to see on the camera, but this is a lot darker and more miserable and grainy than this one on the left-hand side here. So I don't know if this is a different release later in the IRS, like repress. I don't fucking know, but it seems like really low quality in comparison. Probably can't tell on the camera, but this seems just a bit shittier. Look, see, the text just seems a little bit blurrier. Like this one is nice and clear, and that one is like blown out and blurry. So I had suspicions that it was a bootleg, because I ended up paying like 3 quid or something for this, which was ridiculously cheap. This cost me a lot of money. And anyway, Forbidden. Now, out of the 4 albums that have been released in the Anno Domini box set, this thing right here, this one has been completely remixed, which is just a revelation, really. So Iommi, and I think Mike Exeter, the guy who did the Cradle of Filth stuff, we worked on, I want to say, Dusk and Her Embrace. That's how I'm aware of Mike Exeter. Mike Exeter did an interview with Andrew McKay Smith of Scars and Guitars podcast, which is a brilliant interview. And he mentions, of course, working with Tony Iommi in that video. And I didn't realize Mike Exeter, of course, worked so closely with Tony Iommi. I think Mike Exeter is a great audio engineer. Mike and here's Mike Exeter down here, and Tony have done a fucking brilliant job of this. I am always super fucking dubious of remixes because, like, I don't know, top of my head, Cradle of Filth, perfect example. They remixed fucking Cruelty and the Beast, utter dog shit. Dimmu Borgir did Puritania, the album they did with Nick Barker, the one that's like super triggered. Why in the fuck? Awful, you know, just terrible. Same with Mayhem. They did Grand Declaration of War. I know I'm focusing on black metal a lot here, sorry, which isn't Sabbath, but they remixed entirely the Grand Declaration of War. Pointless. Just own it. If you've done an album that was a product of its time, just own it. And that was where I stood until I fucking heard this. Jesus Christ. Now, at first I wasn't sure about the mix because I felt like the snap of Cozy Powell's drums on the original was just like so powerful, and I feel on the new one Cozy Powell's drums are mixed a bit typical. They sound a bit too modern, overcompressed metal production for Cozy Powell. Now, as an album, that kind of sound works perfectly for Forbidden because it is that amalgamation of doomy riffs and like kind of 90s grunge kind of vibe going on. So the sound that they've remixed this thing with is just brilliant. It really, really gives the songs a new lease on life. Even though I'm not super fussed on how they've done Cozy's drums, you can really hear so much more now from the type of stuff that Cozy was playing, his flourishes, his fills. You know, there's double bass in parts, which I'm pretty sure there wasn't originally, so I don't know if they've spliced that in or if it really is just that much clearer. My one gripe with this thing, though, again, the Cozy Powell drum thing isn't a gripe, it's just an observation. But my one gripe with this is they've changed some of the lyrics, and I really don't know why they would do that. Case in point, Get a Grip. Where's the fucking song? Get a Grip, up here. They changed the lyrics to the second chorus. I have no fucking idea why. Just only the second chorus. The first chorus, and I think it comes back for a third time, it's the fucking same. It's the original. It's in the second chorus. They changed the words, and I'm like, why would you? I don't understand. I don't get it. Yeah, so there we have it. That's me readdressing all the Tony Martin Sabbath albums, and honestly, like, I'm just so happy that this box set has come out. You know, it's a revelation, really. And you could see, like, in interviews with Tony Martin, how just, like, chuffed he is that his shit's back in the public eye. And I really would like if Tony Iommi and Tony Martin would get together, like they did with Dio in Heaven and Hell, and they would record something as Headless Cross, like Tony Iommi's Headless Cross. Imagine that. You know what I mean? You could get back Bobby Rondinelli. He's still going, right? You know, Neil Murray still popping along. Let's get the best of that kind of era. Unfortunately, Cozy's not with us, you know. Jeff Nichols is gone now, unfortunately. You know, that's another loss. Like a huge proponent for the whole songwriting of this era of Jeff Nichols. He's gone, unfortunately, as is Cozy. But like I said, you know, you could put Tony Martin. I'm in fucking fantasy football land now, just thinking up dream teams, right? You could put Tony Martin with Tony Iommi, Bobby Rondinelli, and even Geezer. I think Geezer probably wouldn't be into it, or you know, Neil Murray, and you could maybe Mike Exeter could help with the keyboards. I don't know, but yeah, because he talks about Mike Exeter in the Cradle of Filth video interview with Scars and Guitars. He's talking about what's called a visit from Dr. Midnight, and what he means by that is when someone would come in once the band had gone and re-record all the keyboard parts that the band had done because they weren't very good. So maybe Mike Exeter could be Dr. Midnight in Tony Iommi's Headless Cross. Food for thought. Let's make it happen. I know Tony Iommi doesn't want to tour anymore. I understand that. I'd love to see Tony Martin back on the road, but again, I understand. Man is he's getting up there in age now. Whether or not this new talk of Sabbath playing with Bill Ward again is going to detract from this, I don't think it is, because I thought the timing of them talking about touring with or doing a show with Bill, like so Bill, Geezer, Tony, and Ozzy, I thought it would steal the thunder away from this, but it hasn't. This box set is sold out, according to Tony Martin. It's completely sold out, and they are pressing more, which is honestly just fucking great news. If you've ever considered buying, you know, or yeah, just checking out the latest Sabbath stuff, I would implore you to get this set because of all the extras in it. It is like, there's so much stuff in here. Like, I haven't even began to properly read it. There's so much stuff in here. I cannot wait to get through this. Really, I can't, because like this has always been the underdog era of Sabbath, and really happy to see it getting the attention that it finally deserves. And I feel like I've been too harsh on it in the past, and I'm sure many other people have too. And I hope this new re-release gives everybody the excuse they need to go back and give it another go and see it for what it is. Give it a second chance, or a first chance if you're new to this. Again, like a lot of people don't even really know this shit exists, you know, outside of Ozzy, maybe, you know, some Dio stuff. The rest of the Sabbath catalogue doesn't exist to a lot of people. So I hope it'll bring focus on these albums, if nothing else. Right, so I've fucking waffled enough, half hour solid now. Gonna knock this on the head and turn off the record function on the phone. Hopefully this video is salvageable and I can post it online. And until next time, I'll catch you again. Have a good one. Ta-ra now.